All right. I wanted to talk about one thing that I find that comes up common, which I've addressed in different ways before, but I want to or more or less pinpoint the when the disengagement happens and the narcissist goes on to getting a new source of supply, right? Initially, while you're in the thick of it, right? Most people, you're going to be devastated. You're going to be looking for answers. You're going to be confused. You're going to be trying to make sense of it all. And before that, it's kind of like the game plan with the narcissist. It's the back and forth. You know, they want to be with you, but they can't. And you're trying to figure out in your mind why it's just so hard, why this can't work. And the narcissist just keeps playing games with you, giving you all these fake reasons as to why things aren't working. They need space. They need to work on themselves, all this stuff, right? And that's really literally the narcissist's way of exiting the situation. And most of the time, they're trying to project and turn everything on to you as it's your fault why things aren't working and you actually have the problem. And a lot of these things, these anxieties, these insecurities that you have become more pronounced when you're with the narcissist because they trigger these things in people. They trigger a lot of insecurity. They trigger a lot of abandonment anxieties and just a lot of worry in general because they're so unpredictable and they're doing things, that causes you to constantly have to question the situation and what you're currently in with them. This is done by, on purpose for the most part. Some of it, the narcissist is just on autopilot. This is how they are. They're just going through their daily motions of being who they are as a narcissist. So to try to figure it out will burn you out in the long run. One thing you have to understand is when they do move on and finally get a new source of supply, one thing that, and I wish people stop doing this is really bad, a bad habit that people do, and it's common when they go to trying to understand something, they reference themselves in as, well, I wouldn't do that to someone, or I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't. Leave yourself out of it because you're not going to be 100% identical in acting, thinking, and behaving as another person. You're not going to have the same principles, same morals, same consciousness, even identically as another person. People do this all the time. They'll say, well, they'll reference and they'll try to understand it from how you are, how they are as the individual. You can't do that. You can't do it from a perception of what you would do, how you are, if you're trying to understand this stuff, if you're trying to understand other people. You have to completely throw that away and have to come outside of yourself and just be an observer of looking at how it really is amongst other people. Even with the narcissist, trying to understand things, you have to throw away what you would do, how you would do something, and you have to look at it outside of yourself strictly as an observer, neutral. That's the way you can fully gain a better type of understanding of how these things work out and play out amongst the narcissist and other people. When a narcissist gets with another person and they're doing these things, and you're saying, well, that don't make any sense because, this isn't playing out the way it played out with me. Of course, you're not the other source of supply. That's a big factor that people leave out. Even when people are describing how, in general, how maybe certain males or certain females are, they go on the defense quickly to say, well, that's not how I would do it. Well, we know that. Of course, we're not talking about you. We're talking about the other individual that you are not. It'll save you a lot of headache and strain on yourself to not conglomerize, to collectively put yourself in, and generalizing at least yourself into a situation that involves other individuals. If you want to understand this better, you have to look at it outside of yourself. All right? Don't include yourself in with the general masses. All right? This will only confuse you more. So when you see the narcissist and they're with this other person may have they may have a greater level they may have at least poor boundaries that's at a much higher level than you have. Their boundaries may be crap. They may have a lot of abandonment issues as well that you don't have, or that you didn't have in the same degree, which in this situation with that particular source of supply makes them more susceptible to the influences and the manipulation tactics of that narcissist. So everybody's going to be different. So for you, what I'm saying is, don't stretch your mind out about, wow, what made them stay so long in that situation, and with me it was this and that, and I wasn't this, or I did this and I did that, but you're different than the other person. And the narcissists, they are chameleons. They blend in and mirror what the individual wants to see. That's a key point there. They're going to mirror back to them everything that they want to see, everything that they have put into an ideal situation or a partner. They're going to mirror that back to that individual. And each and every last one of you are going to have it's going to be a different component to how the personalities are, to how the likes and dislikes are. That's going to be different. And that's how they're able to thrive from source to source to source, and can create fake, strong bonds and connections with these different sources of supply. Mirroring is powerful for them. It allows them to make that person think that they've met their soulmate. Initially, for all of them, yeah, it works initially. The time span is going to be different between each source of supply. Some sources are going to be better, some aren't going to be as good. But the narcissist is they're they're transient in these type of situations. They're drifters. They can adapt. It's in their nature to be able to adapt to things that have high shortcoming orientations to them. They can adapt in something. Well, this one was only a year. This one was 6 months. This one was 3 years. This one was 10 years. It's okay for them. They can switch. You ever notice how people it'll be like a breakup and they're already into the next situation? Mentally, they've already checked out, or they weren't there fully emotionally to begin with. They never committed emotionally to you in the first place. That's why it's so easy to mentally check out and get with the next person and pick right up. When you have the least amount of emotional investment into something, it makes it 10 times easier to move on. And that is one of the things that a narcissist is in their top rule book, is to not emotionally connect to anyone. They can fake emotionally connect with you. They can make it feel like they have a deep emotional connection with you. But in reality, it's all an act. It's just so that they can pull out of you that strong, intense emotion that they feed off, that they need. And as long as they can get it from you, they're good with that. The moment it stops, they're okay with moving on, going to the next one who will deliver that. Right? Very conditional. The transaction is very conditional with them. And that's why it's it's a quid pro quo, at least. And that's the fact that it has to be about, they'll do this for you if you're giving them this. And when you see them off with it, doesn't mean that, and this is why I said this earlier, it doesn't mean that necessarily that, oh, it was how you didn't do this or didn't do that, that they've went on to something better. It's because the level of energy, attention, admiration, it's like a battery, right? You get a brand new battery in something, it's working just fine. It's perfect. The lower the battery gets when it starts draining, it's not going to perform as good. It's just not. Narcissists want fully charged individuals that they come into contact with. Unfortunately, they burn them out. They burn the energy cells out of these people to the extent where the person is incapable, at least, of giving them that same intense amount of energy. When that happens and they've burnt you out, they're ready to move on with no qualms. It's not about you as the individual. It's about what you can give. Energy-wise, money, physical, sex, any of that. If it starts to die out in any way with them, they can cut you off and move on like nothing. Like nothing. If anything begins to slack with you, they'll move on like you never meant anything to them. And this is what hits people in the heart very hard too. is the fact that they can do that. And the fact that when you thought all these things that you were doing were going to hold them in place and it didn't, you feel devastated by it. But again, even in the situation where they move on to the next person, they're going to burn them out too. The same way they did you. And they're going to move on to something else, and it never stops. Life, connections, everything to them is a big game. They come in with a temporary mindset to everything. So therefore, there's no major expectations to anything developing greater for the narcissist in any aspect of being with them, at least. So, I mean, that's all I have to really say about that. I mean, I encourage people to not invest so much energy in trying to figure out the whys. It makes it hard because you start to, kind of put the blame on yourself as why, or you could have done this better, you could have did that, or maybe if you, wouldn't have mattered what you would have did. It doesn't. The worst of a narcissist comes out in interpersonal relationships. That's where you're going to see the worst. And so there you have it. So don't be so down and gloomy if you do see them with a new supply. It's the same thing playing out, just with a different person. I've said this before numerous times. You've heard this probably also, but stop identifying so much yourself to generalize it with other people. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Make sure to like, subscribe. Till next time, have a good one.